Hey mamas, you're listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast, the only podcast teaching you how to balance your work, motherhood, and wellness. I am Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist and mama wellness consultant. Each week we dive into tips and strategies and much more so that you too can become a balanced working mama. Let's dive in. Hey mamas, welcome to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. It's Dr. Amber here, and I have another really good episode for you today. Before I tell you a little bit about the episode, I have a few things to just remind you of, I guess, or just make sure that you know. One, the Balanced Working Mama podcast is now a part of a podcast network. We are a part of the Mommy Faceted Network, and we're so excited for it. So I'm really excited to see what this means for our podcast, how it helps us to grow, potential sponsorships that now will come with being a part of a podcast network. I'm just really excited and proud of what has come with the Balanced Working Mama podcast. So I'm really excited about that. So I wanted to share that again. And also, recently in my Instagram, I asked you all if you prefer episodes with just me or if you prefer episodes where I interview other mamas. And y'all literally were a 50-50 split. So I won't change anything as of now because I just wasn't sure what type of episodes you all prefer, whether it's just me talking or the interviews where I bring mamas on. But because it is a 50-50 split, I will continue to do how I've been doing where I typically do about half of the episodes in a season is featuring another mama, and then half of the episodes are just me helping you all to find more balance and wellness in motherhood. With that, I do want you all to send me voice messages. A couple episodes ago, I talked about how now I'm really wanting to feature more of you all and what you need and want from this podcast in the actual podcast. So in the show notes, there will be instructions for how you can send me a really quick 60-second voice note. And in that note, I'd love for you to ask me a question. Let me know what concern you have, what issue you're having, a struggle you're having, or a topic you want me to cover on the podcast. I will then take that voice note, plug it into an episode, and then answer any question or comment or whatever it is that you're asking me in that voice note on the actual podcast. So please, please, please do not be shy. Please send me a voice note. I'm excited to start getting those and to see how we can also center some of those on the podcast as well. All right, y'all. Well, otherwise, we're doing good. The community is still thriving. My goal, and I want to tell you this here now so that you all can be paying attention. I'm going to be opening the community again soon. So if you all have been listening and you've been really curious about the Balanced Working Mama community, as you know, we opened in January. On January 1st, we have 70 mamas in our community. And I know that some of you all are interested in and possibly ready to join now. So what I want to do, I want to open it up for a few days sometime in February. So just stay tuned because in February, at some point, I'll open it up probably for 2 to 3 days. So you have to be really quick and on it to know when it's open. Once it's open, come on in, join us. You will receive so much value, so much goodness, so much is happening in our community. There's literally something happening every day in the app. And we do a Zoom session every week. There's really a lot of really good things happening in our community right now. And then I want to do a much larger opening in probably the end of March. I'll open it for about a week, kind of like how we did at the very beginning of January. So either way, just know that there are going to be some opportunities to join our community. I like to keep it close just so that the mamas who are there can start to get to know each other and things are not so changing all the time with new members in constantly. So we keep it closed for a little bit, open it periodically. So again, just know there will be opportunities coming to join our community. So get ready, stay ready. All right, y'all, let me tell you about today's episode. I really enjoyed recording today's episode. This episode features one of my favorite balanced working mamas, like literally one of my favorite. Her name is Brittany. She participated in our very first Empower Wellness program in July of 2020. So she's basically a founding member of the Empower Wellness program. She also is currently a member in our Balanced Working Mama community. And she truly just has a story that is so inspiring. When Brittany and I connected, we actually connected before I even started doing Balanced Working Mama because we both were having kids at the same time. Her daughter and my son are the same age, and we connected and bonded through that experience. But then as I did start Balanced Working Mama, she reached out to me and let me know that she needed some help. And so we went from just working together on the motherhood wellness assessment to help her find what she needed, to her then participating in the Empower Wellness program, now her being a part of our community. And truly, her story is one of surviving in motherhood to now fully thriving. Since then, Brittany has graduated. She went back to school and she got her bachelor's degree. She has started to make space for herself in her motherhood journey. My girl is working out multiple times a week because she and I are connected on our Apple Watches, and I always get her alerts like, oh, Brittany just finished a workout. Like, she's truly out here living that balanced working mama life. And I want you all to hear her story. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know what you think of it, and I will talk to you all soon. Hey, Brittany, how are
Hey,
you?
finding you.
I'm good. I'm so glad to talk to you. I'm excited.
Me too.
And so I know that this is for our podcast, but honestly, and I know I was kind of saying this before I just hit record. I know I was kind of thinking of this as like, oh, I get to just chat with my friend today about how she's grown so much. Because I know that I've been so proud of you. And I think I'm sure I've told you this. And if I haven't, then hear me now. I'm so proud of you. Just in terms of where you've come in the last almost 2 years. And it blows my mind to even say 2 years now, because I was just reflecting on this, before this, like Balanced Working Mama is about 2 years old. And I know you and I connected at the very beginning when really all I had to offer was a wellness assessment.
Mhm.
And so just thinking about that and thinking about how far you've come has really inspired me. And I'm so proud of you. And that's why I wanted to have you on to share your story, if that's okay.
It is. Thank you.
Well, let's just start. Well, first, let's start all the way from the top. Can you introduce yourself? Because I know who you are. Let us know who you are.
My name is Brittany Wiggins Bean. I am a mother of four girls, and like I really feel, even through all this, because I think that's the thing that balance working mama has really helped me with. Even through all this, like that's still like the biggest part of who I am. Um, But I have four daughters, and I have my husband, Mike, and I work in banking, and we also own a videography business. So that's really all that I am right now. I'm an avid reader. I write on occasion, but that's about it.
Yes, Brittany, you're everything. I don't know. I'm gonna just keep bragging on you in this whole episode, because I know that like I know you are often very transparent about Balanced Working Mom being very helpful to you, but you've been so helpful to me in so many ways. Just me watching you on Instagram and us kind of chatting in between times. Like, one, you're my lot goals. You're the one that, me watching your lock journey. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this too. And so I did. Here we are now. And so also just you watching your girls and the way that you parent them, and you're just so gentle with them and understanding and just very patient with the process of them growing up, and even just their own differences. I love the way that you parent them, and I love that like you always just said, the core of you is you're a mom to those four girls, and I love that part of you, and I love what you share about that. But also Brittany will also have a book suggestion for you. She's she,
Always.
she sends me book stuff all the time, and I'm like, oh Lord, I know I'm never going to be able to read this, but one day.
Yes. It's it's been like a really, I think that like the way that I look at my mothering now is really different from the way that I looked at it 2, 3, 10 years ago. Like my oldest child is 13. So when she was born, like I was just stepping out of being a teenager. So when I became an adult, like it was not, oh, figure out what's going on, like figure out what life is like. It was, you have this person that you need to raise and make sure that they turn into a person that's, doing things that's fulfilled and happy. Like, how do I do that when I'm just now getting on my own 2 feet? And then fast forward like 5 years later, I'm still a really young woman with 3 kids and a divorce under my belt. Like, okay, so what do I do now? And a lot of that whole mothering journey was definitely centered around me. I like, how are me and my babies gonna make it? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna figure this out? And how do we make sure that we're all still people at the end of the day? Because having daughters is, I don't have any sons, so I can only speak for like my personal experience. Like, I know what they could be because they could be me. Like they could grow up and be me, and like if they grow up and be me, are they going to be able to deal with the things that I've been through, and am I going to be able to prepare them for the things that I have no idea, that is on the horizon for them? Am I going to be able to do that? And I think that that's always been, even in like my earliest iterations of motherhood, when it was like, sure, you can have a popsicle for breakfast, when just because I'm eating a popsicle for breakfast because like we're both young. That's always been there. And but that's also like that's a really heavy burden to have when you haven't figured it out for yourself, and that you don't have any immediate resources that can tell you, hey, try this. Because I wasn't raised in a single parent home. Like, I'm a military brat. We didn't have like these huge groups of people that have been around us since we were children. It was still very much me building the community around me. And I'm sitting here as a young kid, like hanging out in my full-time job, paying daycare, working with women who are like 10, 20, 30 years older than me. And like, how do I make this fun? Like, what else am I supposed to be doing? But, it's very much being a grown up that we all did together. Me and my oldest, especially, but me and all my girls have done together.
Mm, that is so interesting. And as you were talking, because I know a little bit of your story, but like
Mhm,
as you're talking, it's reminding me of like all these other pieces that I've kind of
mhm,
forgotten about. Um, like when you just said in the very beginning of your motherhood journey, it was like, what do we got to do for me and my girls to survive? And that word
mhm,
survive really stood out to me because I think in the very beginning when you and I connected, and you and I connected probably in like April of 2020, um, in
oh,
probably
it
in
was the babies. Yep, because that was, when were
20,
they when were they born?
2019.
Right.
Oh wait,
What year
so
was it?
before that,
Right,
no,
it
no,
was before
before.
that because
Okay,
we
so
were
even,
pregnant at the
oh
same
my God.
time.
Okay, so we were pregnant at the same time. So let me
Right,
backtrack all the way back because I'm thinking about when you and I started to work together in terms of like
right.
wellness stuff.
Mhm.
That was around April of 2020. But prior to that, we were connected because
Yes.
you and I were pregnant together.
Mhm.
Friends on social media. I say this all the time, y'all. You all can make friends off the internet because I've made several, and Brittany is one of them. Um, and so when we were pregnant, and I needed community, and so I reached out to a bunch of people who were also pregnant at the same time, like, hey, do you all want to start a group me? And so Brittany was one of those people, and we've been in a group me ever since then. So like 2.5 years now, we've been in a group me together with other new moms, just trying to navigate this. But then you and I connected in terms of like the balanced working mama stuff around April of 2020. And I remember you kind of just coming to me and really, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but what my memory of it, it was just kind of like, I'm really struggling and like it's really just me trying to survive, and I'm really tired of that.
Mhm.
And those weren't your exact words, but that's just kind of like the tone that I remember of it. It's just like I am just surviving every day, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so, us trying to think about, well, how do we get you to a point where you're not just surviving but actually
Mhm.
thriving? And so when you said surviving that, a few minutes ago, it was really interesting because I'm thinking, man, Brittany is thriving right now. She's definitely not in the place where she's just trying to survive
Yeah.
every day. So it's been a big shift.
Mhm. It is. It's survive. I think there's a lot of ways to frame like survival. And I want to, just because I want to be like really clear, I wasn't necessarily like, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat? But it was definitely like a constant exhaustion and being overwhelmed. And when we connected, like I was going through like a lot of transitions from being a single mother to getting remarried, having another child, and then blending our families together. And it was just a lot. And it got to a point where I could justify not looking anywhere else or not doing anything else when all my time was spent on taking care of my kids and making sure that my kids saw me and making sure that they were happy and enjoying themselves. But when someone stepped in and was like, I'm here for you, and that's someone being my husband, stepping in and being like, this is our family together, we're gonna do this. It was overwhelming because it really challenged the way that I looked at my day, the way that I looked at my time. And he's like really looking at him as like a whole person who's there with me rather than somebody else that I have to take care of. Because initially, that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted him to be someone else that I took care of because that was what my home life was like all the time, anyways. And he really challenged that because he has very clear boundaries about this is my space, like emotionally and physically, like this is when I need some time for me. This is what I do. And because I had devoted so much of myself to my kids, that is not something that I had developed at all up until that point. I didn't know what I needed to relax. I didn't know what I needed to make myself feel better because I was just tired. So the go-to thing would be, let me lay down or let me go get some rest. And that's not it. You feel tired. I felt tired because I wasn't fulfilled and I didn't feel like there were any steps that I could take towards something because I had so many other things to do. And what's really changed for me as far as perspective goes over the past 2 or 3 years is that I can make big goals. Like the goal doesn't have to just be 8 hours of sleep. The nickel and diming that it takes to get to 8 hours of sleep, which would include like 15-minute naps and 20-minute naps, those 4 hours when your baby and the toddler is, or the toddler is asleep. Like nickel and diming it to 8 hours of sleep is really, really hard. But nickel and diming myself to like graduate was a lot more fulfilling. It was energizing. It made me feel good. It made the people around me really excited for me. It made my girls really excited. And that was, the little step by step goal that I set for myself and was able to achieve because my goal got bigger in the steps that I could take, even though they were small steps. It was taking the same class again to get a better, like it was little steps that got me there. Didn't get the 8 hours of sleep, still working on that. I put that on my wellness assessment, but I was able to get there and seeing other women who were new moms and my age, like who have really achieved some like things that I'm like, oh shit, like look at her, really helped me get to that place where I'm like, I'm gonna set a bigger goal for myself and I'm gonna do it. And the outpour from me changing that has been, really exciting and definitely cemented that I feel like in my life going forward.
Mhm. Wow. So there's just so much that you said right then. Like, so the one thing I was thinking is I remember, or like one thing that I always think about when I think of your story is that unique experience of like kind of how you described being someone who, you know, was a single mom, parented on your own, didn't really have the time or space or resources to really like devote a lot of energy resources to you. It was all to your girls. And then having this person come in who wants to be your partner. And that being really, like you said, overwhelming because you just did not have any roadmap or like guide for that. And so I don't think I had ever really thought of that until your story and like your experience of like really communicating that. And it's so interesting because I think that resonates with so many people or so many women, especially. I think many of us have this, I don't know, somewhere along the way we take in this experience or we internalize this thing of like we need to be mothering everyone around us
Right.
including our partners,
Right.
um, and that's not true.
No.
That's not
Unnecessary work, sis. Don't do
right.
it.
But that's just what we have grown into believing is what being a good
Mhm.
mom is or being a good wife is or being a good woman. And
Right.
I love that you went through that transformation of really seeing, and with your husband kind of like pushing you to see
Mhm.
that hey, he's there to be your equal and your partner, and
Right.
that really shifting a lot for you. But then also I love this metaphor of you kind of saying you made a bigger goal for yourself. And it sounds like maybe for instance for so long your goal was just to something this small, like get
Right.
8 hours of sleep. And getting 8 hours of sleep, that's a legit goal. We need that.
It is.
But
Amen.
it kept you from realizing that you could also set this other goal of completing your degree, going back to school. Because I think I remember like when you and I first connected, I don't think you even thought or realized that that was something that was in your grasp, like something you could even do.
Right. I think that that was something that I had kind of because I have a career,
Mhm.
and it's not. I think that a lot of people think about college right after high school so that you can get a career. And I already had a career. Like I started working right after high school because I for the little while I was working and then I had a kid that I had to take care of. So it's like I definitely started working and had goals professionally and have been able to, move forward in that. So, but having my degree was something that I wanted. Like it was, my husband talks about legacy a lot because he's like a one, two, three, third generation HBCU grad. So it was like hearing him say those things like really challenged me because like my grandparents went to the HBCU that I graduated from. My dad went to the HBCU that I graduated from. Like I want to be able to say that to our girls. Like I don't want him to be like, yeah, go over here. Like no, I want them to go to my school. That's where I grew up. That's it's so it was a big deal to me that has my job changed since I graduated? No. Have I been able to apply myself to other things that I wouldn't have before? Absolutely. Do I have a much better perspective about things? Yes. And I feel like that's what it would have done for me if I had completed it 10 years ago. And that's what it does for me now. And it's opened the door to have really great relationships with people. And even on top of that, to the people who like congratulated me and like were just like elated for me when I was able to complete my degree was like an amazing experience because I don't ask for, hey, congratulate me on this. Like as many books as I've read, I'm not like, hey, I read all these books and I know these words. That's not really my thing. But for people to be like, you know what? We know you're over 30. We're still gonna slide you this graduation gift. That was like, you don't have to. I don't need it, but thanks. But
Oh,
it's just amazing to have that feeling, it's a it's a it, I can't. speechless, like I can't put that into words. As someone who, because our first conversation, I don't know if you remember with my wellness assessment, was the asking for help
Mhm,
and building community.
mhm,
And I just didn't feel like I had the language or even like the gumption to do those things.
mhm.
And what's happened is that the opportunities that I have had to kind of stand up for myself in the way of like, this is what I want to do, I didn't have the resistance that was there was not within the circle of people who were immediately around me. Like it was literally systematic resistance. It wasn't everybody around me really wanted to see me win and accomplish and feel good about myself. And it's just doing those things has allowed them to show up for me in a really different way than I think anybody has been able to, up until this point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's giving me chills just thinking about all of that because I'm still just thinking of like all the ways that you've changed. So to give people who are listening more context. So again, Brittany and I were connected when we were first pregnant. Well, I was first pregnant. Um, and this was like in 2019. Then, Brittany and I connected again more in depth in terms of her wellness. And we worked together on a wellness assessment where we identified for her goals being asking for help more, really utilizing the support around her, but then also building a community so that she doesn't feel so isolated. From there, Brittany decided to join the Empower Wellness Program, our very first cycle. Shout out to all of you. Um, that was what, July of 2020. Oh my
So
gosh.
long.
Ooh, we were babies.
Didn't have no hair. Or you had hair. I didn't have no hair.
Funny. And so, Brittany, even just thinking about that, Brittany, like you deciding to join the program was a big deal too, because that was you moving forward in this intention of I need community for myself.
Mhm,
I need to put myself out there, be more vulnerable, ask for help. And so that was huge. That was huge. And
mhm,
I was so proud of you for just, accepting that type of help and saying, hey, I'm going to join this program because I need it.
mhm.
Brittany successfully graduated from Empower Wellness Program and has been leveling up ever since. And no lie, whenever I'm like talking about you to my husband, I'm always like, I refer to you as Brittany, the balanced working mama, because I really think of you in that way. And just in terms of the growth. And so like one example, and I kind of want you to speak to this because again, this is another thing that I always think about with you. I remember you were telling or talking about how, you're an avid reader, you read a lot, you have a lot of books, but you did not have a space to read.
Oh.
Or like a place where it was just devoted just to you, and then
Mhm.
eventually you got that space. So can you speak to that and why that's meaningful?
Um, that was meaningful for a lot of reasons. The first thing was as a mom and a single mom with limited resources, everything I had was something that I shared with my kids. Like it wasn't anything for them to bedroom door was always open, like bathroom door also always open. Like they were always there and they were always right there. And there was not any boundary between like this is mommy's or this is what mommy is doing and not entertaining you. I was constantly in the face of my children and they're so close in age that it really wasn't the oldest three are so close in age that it was really I was able to sit the three of them down, look at them and entertain all three of them at the same time. But what happened once I got married was that okay, so we're gonna start making bathroom doors shut a normal thing. we're, we're gonna start like we have the youngest and like we need to make like working around her it needs to be a separate thing because I can't set her next to 10 and 9 8 7 year old. I can't do that. She needs a different type of care and like having to compartmentalize things like that was a lot. But what I noticed and what was initially frustrating during this time was that my husband was very particular that his working area was his working area, and that was not an area for anyone else to kind of disturb. And at first, it was frustrating for me. And it was frustrating because it really challenged the way that I looked at what my home life was and what our home life would look like. And also, it challenged the justifications that I had for the behavior that I had and how I shared things with my children, because they're everything. So I need to share everything. And it was through, like, though working through that, that I established that this space, which started off with a heavily researched chair, that, like, that's my chair. Like, when mommy's in that chair, like, mommy's reading. And that felt like something so frivolous for a really long time. And I would only read while they were asleep and after I was rested. And it was really a void for me for a long time, not being able to think about things and learn about different things and just, like, really enjoy something that I love doing. And I felt like I couldn't justify how much I wanted to be able to sit down with a book and read it without having to worry about dog hair or toys, snacks in the seat or anything like that. And, like, that chair turned into a room. And then that room turned into, like, a whole bunch of books and a very avid reading practice that is edifying for me and my children, because it and has passed on to my children. Like, my oldest daughter gets paid for, like, her allowance in books. She wants books. And she asked for a bookshelf for her birthday. Like, it's all these things where, they see me doing this thing that I love, and then they want to copy it. Because, like, my baby, I walked in there and I'm like, it's late. It's 10:30. Why is she not up yet? And she's like, in there, brown bear, brown bear. And it's like, that's, I'm getting it, like, and they're getting it. And it's that concern that I had 13 years ago when I was just getting started on this whole mothering journey. Like, buying that chair gave a specific space for them to see me doing something that I cared about, and resolve that, is showing me that I'm doing what I intended to do. Like, I'm raising them to see me doing well and giving them the tools for them to be well. So that was it started with a chair.
Started with the chair. That sounds like a
It
book.
started with the chair.
Right. Oh my God, I love that. And again, it just gives me chills because it's like, what I hear in you telling that story is you making the decision to make a space for you, put up some boundaries. Yes, your babies are everything. And they don't got to share everything with you. You can have your space, you can have your time, you can have your boundaries, and there still are everything. And it just feels like the moment that you made space for you, you blossomed, and then they started to blossom in ways that you really couldn't have imagined.
Right.
All because you shifted the focus to what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
You needed that space for you. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I really do. It's making me think because, I sometimes notice the things that I love to do the most, I do when my children are away. So for
Mm-hmm.
instance, you all know I love working out, but I don't think they've ever really seen me work out because I'm always working out at 5 a.m. or in the evening. And so it started to make me think, one day, there's no pressure to do this, but one day I want them to see me actually working out and exercising so they can actually internalize how much I love it. And so just, thinking of it's okay for us to take moments to do things for ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because our kids see it and that
Mm-hmm.
makes them better as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
just love that.
Milo works, our youngest works out with me sometimes because I do virtual fitness training.
Mhm.
So we'll cut it on and she'll be right there doing jumping jacks and push-ups and everything. So I think it's important because it's like the same conversation that they talk about. People don't really know where their food comes from. They don't understand all the works the farmers did, how it got to the grocery store. And I think I know especially for me, when I was a single mother, like I was very, like you said, when they were asleep or before they got up or when they were doing something, that was the only time I did anything. But it's like now, if I do things while they're sitting right there, they know the work that goes into getting there. Like my oldest, when I'm working out, she sees me and she's like, I'm saying I hate it because I'm one of those. I'm one of those people that get training and like, oh, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And then afterward, I'm like, yay, that was great. But while I'm doing it, I'm like, I hate bear crawls. I hate it. I hate you. I hate all this. But she's like, Mommy, I'm so sorry you have to do that. I'm like, no, it's good that I have to do it. And you should be doing something too, so it opens that opportunity for me to talk to her about like, yeah, this is really hard, but this is also really hard because mommy is a lot less active than she used to be. And mommy, wasn't staying on top of this before you came, before your sister came. And it just gives them a better understanding of the things that are going on in the background around them when they actually see me do it, even if it is in passing, rather than me trying to get something accomplished without their eyes on me.
Absolutely. And that's a big lesson that I often try to teach mamas. Because again, I think a lot of us kind of fall into that trap of like, well, if we can't do it when our kids are napping or sleeping, then we just
It
can't.
can't be done.
And that's not true. And I think you are such
Mm-mm.
a good example of that. We can exercise when our children are awake. We
Mm-hmm.
can read our books when our children are around.
Mm-hmm.
We can juice. I know I'm juicing right now. So that's the example that came to mind. But I don't gotta wait until my children are sleeping. We do it in the morning and he's really interested and now he helps me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's so many things that we need to accept and learn that we can continue to do while our kids are watching, and it's actually good for them to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for helping me with that lesson as well. I know that we're almost out of time, and I love talking to you because I just feel like there's so much wisdom that you have about like motherhood and Black womanhood and raising girls and just partnership. There's just so much, but I think I kind of want to ask you, well, a few more questions. I'm really curious to hear from you. How do you think you have grown and changed the most in the last few years? Thinking of all the things you've like overcome and the ways that you transformed. How are you most different, and how have you grown the most?
I think what's grown most for me is how I'm able to conceptualize myself, I guess is the best way to put it. I think there was a time where I would kind of just think myself as a mom, and I didn't really think I had much to offer beyond that. Like I knew that I was a good person, but at this point, I know undoubtedly, like I have something to offer. And I'm also, because I know that, I'm a lot more fulfilled than I was before. And I think that that's been the biggest change is that I've I've always felt like I was a good communicator and that I was able to, get my point across to people. But now it's like I understand that I don't have to talk to everybody about everything. Not that I was ever an overshare because I'm not. Like I'm very private. Like I don't want to talk to you about this, but that I guess being resilient and formidable and persistent are all things that I feel a lot more comfortable about being ascribed to me than I did before. Like there were just other things of being associated with being a mom and being a woman that I put a lot more stock in that isn't necessarily like the biggest stars in my personality. But being able to kind of shift and be like, no, I am not constantly hugging all four of my kids at the same time, but they absolutely feel that I am there to support them and protect them and that I'm always there to be transparent with them has really, like, I can justify that behavior. And before it felt like any justification that I had for that was just not going to be good enough. And like having the language to explain to them or to anybody, like, my kid reads whatever she wants to. Why? Because she needs to. Like, she needs to be able to talk about these things. She needs to start thinking about everything that she needs to start thinking about things now. And so that when she grows up, she's not out here like I was, just like, oh, well, all I can do is raise these kids. So that's all I'm gonna do. Like, no, like, absolutely not. There are so many other things that you can do. So,
Oh my gosh. Okay, two more questions for you.
mhm,
Ooh, and again, I'm just thinking about, like, the words that you just used to describe yourself now. Like, I feel like I've always seen that in you. So I'm so glad that you are now seeing those things in you. Because you're amazing, Brittany. You really are. And so I'm just so glad that you're now coming to see that and believe that. Um, for mamas who are listening and who might also still be struggling with, just like finding their footing, whether it's with raising girls or with being a single mom, or with struggling with how to really accept help from their partners, or just like navigating themselves outside of motherhood, whatever it is. What do you feel is the biggest lesson that you have learned for you that might be helpful for others?
I think the biggest lesson is that even taking small steps when you know that you're capable of big things can be infuriating because you're like, I want to get to the finish line with this. But trying to do everything at once isn't necessary for you to move forward. You don't have to accomplish everything at the same time. If you're able to take one little step a month, one little step a year, one little step a week, it doesn't matter. If you're able to take one little step, then you're able to like stay rooted and anchored and move forward that way. You don't have to say immediately, I'm going to start doing this stuff right now and I'm going to get it all done right now. And then backslide for the next 3 months because you've thrown everything off. Being able to pace yourself and keep track of the movement that you're making, the progress that you're making is important for you to see how much you've grown and the things that you've been able to accomplish when sometimes because sometimes you look back, you look around and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything. But in actuality, like, yeah, you have. Like, you've been keeping a person alive. And it's a delightful person, or it's a challenging person, a curious person. Like, you've been doing things this whole time, and there's probably not enough people giving you a pat on the back about it. But like, when you come around other like-minded people who are going through the same thing, not even like-minded, like, they can be completely different from you, but when you come around other people, like, they'll recognize that and be like, what? Like, you doing all the shit, man. Like, keep it up. So I think that that's it. Like, just keep moving forward. Like, little things make a really big difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Keep moving forward. Those little steps add up.
Mhm.
My last question for you. I know that you have joined our community, and I am so excited about it. Very happy that you're a member of our community. And so I'm curious, how do you plan to level up even more? Because I feel like you already at the top. You're already at the top, already leveled up, but what more do you want for yourself in terms of your well-being, your wellness? What else are you working towards?
Think right now I'm working towards um, not second guessing myself as much. As much as I've grown and I recognize my growth, there's still the little voice in the back of my head that's like, is that too much? Is that, are you going to be able to do that? And like, I'll constantly thinking myself out of that bag is a lot of energy that could be devoted to something else. Instead of me second guessing what I'm capable of, what my family can handle, what my community can handle. Like, I could really just keep on doing, like, whatever the hell I wanna do and deal with the fallout later because, like, it's we are on a big blue and green rock, like, hurtling through the outer space. Like, there's like, what else is there to do if I'm not, like, doing the things that I love with the people that I love and enjoying them and my time here. So I think that that's what I want to focus on more.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love it. Well, Brittany, thank you so much. I'm so happy for you. I'm excited for you. I'm very proud of you. And more importantly, I'm glad we're connected. Like I'm so
Yes.
glad that you're a part of my life, and I hope that it stays that way for years to come.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Not a problem. And thank you too. I really appreciate everything that you've done and the words that you've given me have been very helpful. And just seeing this grow has been really inspiring. So kudos to you.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy we're here.
Yay. Hey, Mama. Thank you for listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. If you love this podcast, please be sure to rate it and share it with another mama that you know. And don't forget to follow me and Balanced Working Mama on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon.